Good day, grade 12 economics learners. My name is Letiane LG, and welcome to today's lesson. And as always, this lesson is brought to you by the Free State Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. Economists, today we'll be focusing on revision for paper 1, and we are looking at the main topics there, which is the macroeconomics as well as economic pursuit, as that compromises of the whole of paper 1. Okay, so what we want to do today is we want to start with the exam tips so that you can do what we call a self-evaluation to check as how far you are in terms of the exam, or how ready you are in terms of the exam. Not to create any panic, but to say that at least you can do some checklists that I've got this under control, right? As a reminder that paper 1 consists of the two main topics, which is the macroeconomics and economic pursuit. Knowing that in economics, we've got the four main topics, which is macroeconomics, microeconomics, economic pursuit, and contemporary economic issues of the day. But for paper 1 purposes, we are looking at the two topics, which is macroeconomics and economic pursuit. The duration of the paper, grade 12, it's 2 hours, and the marks there is 150. Of which we are saying that to excel in this examination, it is very, very imperative that you diligently practice all the middle order questions, the higher order questions from 2021 question papers until now, as they are aligned with the exam guideline of 2021 and 2024. So that's your target there. If you would have worked with previous question papers, final exam as well as your prelim exam from different provinces, at least that can say you are much equipped to write the exam. And that will allow you also to apply the correct action verbs and the requirements of the questions. And we are always saying that grade 12s, to achieve the comprehensive responses and to secure full marks out of this, is to ensure that all your answers are presented in complete sentences. Furthermore, this one is very important, where we say you also need to be updated with current affairs. Just as a teaser to start this session, I will ask all of you to say, who's the current Minister of Basic Education in South Africa? That's a 1-mark question. And if you're going to say it's Me-Angie Motshekga, you're going to get 0. Because she's no longer the Minister of Basic Education, but she's now the Minister of Defense. So those are the things that we're saying. Just be updated with the current affairs as they change continuously. So, especially with the two topics that we are talking about here, which is the macroeconomics and economic pursuit. Because under macroeconomics, we'll be focusing and zooming more on the economy as a whole, especially with reference to the public sector. So if you don't know the 1-mark questions, and then we are not going to achieve what we want. At the end of the day, we want each and every economics learner to get 150 out of 150 where possible. And these hanging marks here are the ones that we say you really, really need to get hold of. So current issues are very, very important here. As a reminder, the duration of the paper is 2 hours. You need to make sure that you practice everything and you finish within the first the 2 hours that is allocated. Check how many question papers you've done so far, which we are saying from 2021 up until now. If you can tick and say, I've done all these question papers up until now, that says you are well equipped or you are ready to meet the requirements of the question paper. But not to create a panic. If you have not yet done those things, you can still catch up on that. So here's the checklist, so that at least you can say, I meet the requirements. Under macroeconomics, we are looking at circular flow, where it covers the following: the representation of the circular flow model, as it was from as far as grade 8 up until now, where you look at the participants in that circular flow: government, households, firms or businesses, as well as the fourth one, which is the foreign sector. We'll also be looking at the markets that are linking these participants together. You'd start with the first one, which is the resource market or the input market, or as well as is known as the factor market, followed by the output market or the market for goods and services or the product market. Also, we are looking at the financial market, which is divided into two, the money market as well as the capital market. The foreign exchange market there, where currencies of different countries are traded. So these are the markets that it's a reminder or it's a revision to say you need to know them from the circular flow model. The national accounts aggregate and conversions, where we will be looking at the three methods of calculating GDP, where you said it's pi, which is the production method, the income method, and the expenditure method. Then under circular flow, lastly, you could be saying the multiplier, definition of the concept, calculation of the multiplier effect, and the implication or the impact the multiplier has inside the economy. So those are the requirements of circular flow. Topic 2, business cycles, the composition and features of the business cycle, explanation of government policies, which is the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. We are looking at the new economic paradigm embedded in the demand side and supply side policies, where there you will be looking at the issues of Phillips curve, the issues of unemployment and inflation, and then the supply side policies, you'll be looking at the reduction of cost, the efficiency of inputs, as well as markets. Features underpinning forecasting, including the three economic indicators, plus where we say composite, so including the four economic indicators: leading indicator, lagging indicator, coincident indicator, and a composite indicator, plus the other features underpinning forecasting. We start with the length of the business cycle, the trend line, the amplitude, moving averages, extrapolation. So if you can say that you tick on those, and then you will be saying that I've met the requirements of this topic. Also, knowing the two approaches, which is the monetarist approach and the Keynesian approach, or the exogenous explanation or the endogenous explanations of business cycle. Those are a recap of the content that we've learned in term 1 when we started our year in grade 12. Then still under macroeconomics, we are looking at topic 3, which is the public sector and its role, the composition, the necessity, the problems associated with public sector provisioning, the macroeconomic objectives, fiscal policy including the lava curve, the reasons for public sector failure, where we said the composition as the national, the provincial, as well as the local government. Why do we need the public sector? We know that it's there to govern the economy, to manage the resources, and also to for provision of public goods and services. And then the problem associated with public sector, we know that it is due to lack of accountability, parastatals, corruption, just to name a few of those problems that are associated with public sector. And the macroeconomic objectives, as a recap, you call it IFEP, which is the first E, it's economic growth, where we can measure it to say it refers to the increase in the production of goods and services. And it is measured in terms of real GDP, where we said for economic growth leads to economic development. And we said for economic development to occur, the economic growth rate of a country should be higher than the population growth rate of a country. And we know that the desired economic growth of the country, for us to reach prosperity or economic development, it should be around 4.5%. We also mentioned that after economic growth, then we can say we are achieving what we call full employment, where we said everyone who's willing to, who's able to work, can find employment or work, whether it's in the formal sector or in the informal sector. Then we can say as a country we are achieving those. But you realize that last week alone, Stats SA issued unemployment figures, and we are sitting at around 33, something in South Africa. So we are not achieving that macroeconomic objective. The other one is the issue of exchange rate stability, appreciation of the currency and depreciation of the currency. Having to understand that because we trade with other countries, we use different currencies to trade. If the rand depreciates, inputs will be expensive, of which it will also affect us locally because the prices of goods and services will be expensive on the other side. Contrary to that, when the rand appreciates on consumer goods, it is negative to us as South Africa because South Africans now will tend to support other countries rather than supporting South Africa as a whole. So we'll see a situation where imports are higher than exports because of the currency appreciation. While on the other side, when it comes to intermediary goods or inputs, then we say the currency appreciation needs to be in our favor, and hence we need to stabilize our exchange rate. Another one, we mentioned the issue of price stability. The price stability where we are able or relatively able to afford goods and services, especially consumer goods and services, because we are at the receiving end of those. So if input costs increases, automatically the prices of goods and services are going to increase, grade 12s. And as that increases, it has got an impact on us because now we incur something that is called inflation. And hence now the Reserve Bank will come in terms of keeping inflation within target of 3 to 6%. I'm already giving you this one-word answers here, grade 12s, where you are evaluating. If they ask you what is the current inflation rate target, you can tell us it's 3 to 6%. So keeping inflation within target comes with give and take here, of which now the Reserve Bank will have to increase interest rates. And when interest rates increases, it means access to credit will be limited. And the firms, those who have borrowed funds from commercial banks, will have to pay back the funds with higher interest. And for them to do that, they will have to go and recover those interest by increasing the prices of goods and services on the other side. Who gets affected? The consumer gets affected at the end of the day. So that's an evaluation of why we need to keep prices stable and why inflation needs to be within target. And as a reminder, the Reserve Bank would like to achieve an inflation target at the midpoint of 4.5%. If they ask you again, what is the desired midpoint of inflation in South Africa? We are saying at 4.5%, then we'll be saying that we have achieved what we call price stability. The last one, it is what we call now economic equity, where we bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. In this way, you know that in South Africa, we apply a tax system that is called progressive tax system. What does progressive tax system mean now? The higher you earn, the more you pay tax. And that tax is then distributed through what we call transfer payments, grants, child grant, disability grant, old age, foster care, etc., as a form of bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. That is what we call redistribution of income amongst the people in a country. Then the fiscal policy, we understand that it is controlled by Treasury, where it applies the issue of government spending and taxation. With reference to the lava curve, where we said the lava curve now measures or shows the relationship between the tax rate and the tax revenue. One word answer there. A diagram or a curve that shows the relationship between the tax rate and tax revenue. Your answer is the lava curve, of which we understand that at the maximum point or the highest point at a certain highest point, that is where the maximum revenue government can collect. After that, people will start avoiding paying tax. People will start evading paying tax, and some will even be discouraged to work because a large portion of their disposable income goes to the government as a form of tax. The reasons for public sector failure, it's our essay. We know that. We're going to be discussing as we continue. Topic 4 is what we call the foreign exchange market. The first starting point is our essay where we discuss the reasons for international trade, both supply reasons as well as demand reasons for international trade. And the balance of payments account, the one that is divided into 3 sub-accounts: the current account, the capital transfer account, the financial account. Okay, then the foreign exchange market, where currencies of different countries are exchanged or traded, of which that makes it possible for imports and exports to take place. Then we're establishing of foreign exchange rates. You understand that there are 3 systems that is applied. The first one is what we call a fixed exchange rate. It does not fluctuate. The other one, it is what we call managed or dirty exchange rate system. And then the last one that is used in South Africa, it is what we call a free floating exchange rate system. Another one with answer there. An exchange rate system that is used in South Africa, your answer is free floating exchange rate system. It means it is allowed to fluctuate due to the forces of demand and supply. How do we then correct the balance of payment surpluses or balance of payment deficit? And in South Africa, most of the time we realize that our balance of payment is always on the deficit because imports are higher than exports. So there are certain measures that the Reserve Bank as well as the government apply in order to correct those this equilibria in the balance of payment. So those are your 4 topics under macroeconomics grade 12. Topic 1, circular flow. Topic 2, business cycle. Topic 3, public sector. Topic 4, foreign exchange market. All these topics under macro, we know that they are possible for question 1, question 2, question 4, and question 5 as an essay. So it means if by default you choose question 2, you'll only be doing macroeconomics. If you do question 4, you'll be choosing the mixture of macroeconomics and economic pursuit. And then the last question, the first question in section C of 40 marks, it is macroeconomics, of which we'll be discussing that when it comes to the issues of essays. Okay, under economic pursuit now, which is topic 5, we are looking at what we call economic systems, protection, and free trade. Here we'll be looking at what we call export promotion, while we are substituting imports. We look at the arguments in favor of protectionism, arguments in favor of free trade, or if that does not work, then we can do what we call give and take, where we do a desirable mix and we evaluate the achievements or the efforts by the government to promote exports and to substitute imports on the other side. Topic 6, it is what we call economic growth and development. There we are looking at the demand side approach, supply side approach, and also the evaluation of South Africa's approaches. We are looking at also the difference between the North and South divide, and we'll be looking at industrial development policies under economic growth. Topic 7, it's South Africa's industrial development and South Africa's regional development, of which we remember that here there's a difference between industrial development and regional development, where we said industrial development, it is planning for and building new industries in certain areas, as well as expanding those existing industries in certain areas. building for and planning new industries in certain areas, as well as expanding the existing industries in certain areas. That is industrial development. But with regional development now, we understand that the level of development between regions, there's an imbalance. So these are the policies that are aimed at developing or bringing economic livelihood in areas that are underdeveloped. It means areas that do not have industries, areas that do not have infrastructure, where people now end up moving from those areas, going to cities and towns to look for better opportunities. That is regional development. Okay. So the other one that we just need to look at there, it is the issue of topic 10, which is indicators, both social and economic indicators. We'll discuss those when we are looking at our possible essays for the exam. As a reminder of how the paper looks like, economists tell you this is where we say learners should be getting this 30 out of 30. But some common mistakes here that we do as candidates when we are writing. You look at the first one, says it's a multiple choice question. It means you are given 4 options there. You are given A, B, C, D. Now, a learner would be reading a statement and making a choice to say, no, I've chosen A. Then realizing that, but no, B also looks okay, or D looks okay. Then they do like this. Which one is here now? Which answer is correct here? Is it A? Is it B? Or D? If we were to look at this and you are saying, this person is supposed to award me 2 marks here, which one is which here? Are we marking A or are we marking D? With the new exam rules, is that if you've written like this, where you are supposed to be choosing the correct answer, you're going to get that incorrect because you are not sure. If you had made a mistake, if the first one was supposed to be A for that matter, but you realize that the correct answer is D, just cancel this and write the correct one there, which is D. Do you see how clear it is? So with the first one, the marker is not sure whether it's A or D. But with the second one, we can see that the learner cancelled A, wrote the correct one, which is D there. Then there will be, again, this ones. We play lotto, we take chances, probably thinking which one is correct here. Okay, let's say first you started with D, but you don't want to cancel D because your guts are still telling you that D is correct. Then you do this. Then you say it's D or B. But we said choose one option out of these 4 that are given. So we cannot mark this grade 12s. We cannot. So this one is going to be marked wrong. It means there must be only one correct response there. Only one correct response. And the match column, again, here is our common mistake, of which we say we should be getting 8 out of 8. Why am I saying that? Letters here do not repeat themselves. I repeat, letters do not repeat themselves. You'll be given this side of column A, you are given descriptions, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then on the other side, which is column B, you are given the statement. So it's a terminology in column A and then a statement in column B. In this instance, grade 12s, you do not repeat letters. You'll be numbering, of which we do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then the first one, you write, now you chose C. Then you answer. Along the way, in 1.7, again, you write C. So automatically you forfeited 1 mark or 2 marks there because it shows that this candidate is not sure what they are doing here. So the letter C there cannot repeat itself in a match item, in a table format. It cannot repeat itself. So if you've completed by doing what we call an elimination method, if you've completed all the alphabets and you realize that only C is left or D is left, then we can say just take a guess there if you are not sure. But we expect you to get 8 out of 8 here without repeating any alphabet. I hope we are clear on that one. So C and C cannot be possible. It means if we mark the first C correct, then why did we repeat the other C? Because automatically that one is going to lose you 1 mark. Then out of 30, it is gone. So let us be careful of that one. Still on section A, again here where we said terminology, terminology, terminology. Economic concepts are very important. Do your own concepts, practice them so that we can get this 6 out of 6 here. Then be careful here, grade 12. We are saying acronyms, abbreviations, and examples will not be accepted. I'll make an example of which that's what most of the candidates do. All right, here's the first description. The total final value of all goods and services produced within the borders of a country for a specific year. Then the learner remembers to say, oh, hey, I remember this, and I'm in hurry, I'm panicking. No, the answer there is GDP. I know this. The abbreviation is correct. The answer is gross domestic product. It is 100% correct. But did you meet the requirements of the question? The answer is no. You did not meet the requirements. Therefore, even if GDP was correct as gross domestic product, you are going to be marked wrong. 1 mark is lost. Because we are saying read instructions. That's what we want. Just read the instructions. Then you will see that things will be easy here. Okay. Another one is this one. A support or an aid that is given to the less fortunate in South Africa. The correct answer there, it is what we call transfer payments. But the example of those, it is probably child grant or it is probably foster care grant. But we are saying examples are not accepted here. So it means if you write child grant as a financial aid that is given by the government, it is an example of the concept which is transfer payment or social transfer or welfare payments as a complete answer to that. That will not be accepted. So you lost another mark. So here it's very easy to get it, but very tricky on the other side because we are in a hurry and we don't pay attention to instruction. Then we want you to get 30 out of 30 when you are writing your paper. Section B is out of 80 marks, of which we expect at least you to answer 2 of the 3 questions. Instruction here, grade 12. When we say 2 out of the 3 questions, most of the candidates, what they do, question 2, it is 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, and 2.5. When we say 2 out of the 3 questions, Elena writes choose 2.5 and choose 2.3, and they say I'm done. It means I've met the requirements. They said I should answer 2 of the 3 questions. That is not what we are saying. The full question, it means it is made up of these questions are made up of question 2, question 3, and question 4. So what we want you to do here is to meet the requirements of this so that you can get 8 out of 80. You choose question 2. We know it's macroeconomics. You answer the whole question from 2.1 up until 2.5. Where it says 40 marks, you know that you are done. Then you are left with a choice here. Question 3 or question 4. Most of the time, candidates do not even get to section C. Why? Because they write all the questions. They write question 2, write question 3, write question 4. Then they don't get to section C, and then we say time is up. So the instructions are clear. You choose any combination of these questions. Question 2 and question 3. Question 2 and question 4. Or question 3 and question 4. Those combinations are the ones that we want. Even when you choose question 4, it's from 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, and 4.5. Total of 40 marks plus another question, total of 40 marks. That gives you a total of 80. So already from that, you've got the 80 and the 30. So your 110 is in the bag. Okay. Then section C is your essay type of question or essay response question, where we said here you answer one of the two questions. Now, when you get to question 5 and 6, learners, the mistake that happens that you don't even number your questions. We are not sure whether you're answering question 5 or you're answering question 6. So make sure that you read the instructions where you start every question in every section in a new page, and you clearly write the question number that you are dealing with there. Then you get your 40 marks. So it's your 40 plus 80 plus 30. The grand total for this paper, it is 150 marks. That's the requirement there. If you have done this, if you met this composition, then it's a thumbs up for the economics. Okay, so possible errors. Some of them I've mentioned them. Most of the candidates do not underline the action verbs within the statement or the question. So have your ruler, pencil where you underline what is required. Impact of something, evaluate something, that's an action verb. Also, a failure to satisfy the requirements of the questions in terms of the following. Number 1, the cause and effect relationship. The cause and effect relationship. So here we are looking at something as an impact of something, where learners only focus on one element and they don't look at the other element. You'll see those cause and effect relationship as we do the questions. The other ones, a failure to provide full sentences so that they can add marks. Listing here, where we say, what is the purpose of EPWP? Employment, job creation, assist the poor. That is listing. In that way, you're not going to get the full marks here. So we ask you that you write in sentences, you explain and you paint a picture of the subject, which is economics, to everyone else. Pay attention to mark allocation. And sometimes you choose the question because of the data response or a picture or a table that you favor. Where you've seen, no, I think I love circular flow. I think I've seen this. Then you start choosing those. That's a common error that happens. Where we are saying, okay, the other one, they come out without attempting the long questions. What do we say when we say long questions? It's your 2.4, 3.4, 4.4. It's your middle order question. Discuss specialization and technology as supply reasons for international trade. So it means you can do a table where this side you talk to specialization and then this side you talk to technology as supply reasons for international trade. You always look at those. And then in a long question, which is 2.5, 3.5, as well as 4.5, these are what we call a possible higher order questions, where we ask you to evaluate the question. What is the effect of something? How does something impact? Has it been successful or not? What are the positives or negatives of a particular items? So that is where we say, here we are checking application. And where we are saying, you become objective when you are answering these questions of evaluation. You do not become subjective. Evaluate the impact of a low energy supply in the economy. So automatically it's negative. So how does that affect the economy on the other side? Don't become subjective where you say, no, they ate our money. These people are not good and so on. We are economists. You evaluate what is happening. How will that affect the economy? Not you personally. We are looking at the economical approach here in terms of evaluation. Has South Africa been successful in fighting the issue of water shedding? Yes, it has been successful. No, it has not been successful because of the following reasons. That's the evaluation type of a question. So approach this by underlining the action verbs. It will be easier for you to answer your questions. So those are the possible errors that candidates do, or the possible errors that we find when we have to mark a cause and effect relationship, not answering to satisfy the question in terms of the mark allocation, choosing a diagram because you like it, but not because of the questions that are under it. And then also coming out of the exam without attempting the long questions. You list 2.4, I'll come back. 2.5, I'll come back. When we say time up, you submit, but the whole 16 marks is gone. Therefore, we're not gonna get our 150 out of 150. So let's avoid these possible errors. Then I am telling you, we will be on the right track. Okay, I know this is where we are now, where we'll be looking at the possible essays here. Remember, these ones are macroeconomics essays. We said here they are in question 5. So here, listen, you make a choice. Study question 5 essays or question 6 essays for section C. Then you study the content for section B. So, because if you combine these essays in total, I'm thinking that there are 12 for paper 1. But now where we are saying that cut those to 6 and cut the other ones to 6. The first one is the role of markets in the circular flow. The second one is the new economic paradigm that embedded or rooted in the demand and supply side policies to influence the economy, where we'll also need to discuss under a business cycle the features underpinning forecasting. And then we are also saying this one, it's our possible or hot essay. Discuss in detail the reasons for public sector failure, or discuss both supply reasons and demand reasons for international trade. Grade 12, with the first 3 essays, we've been doing them, we can easily get marks out of those. So these ones, they become a bit tricky because we tend to combine the information. Hence, we are saying these are our hot essays. The first one under public sector failure. For headings alone, you can get 8 marks, where we said, if you remember here, under public sector failure, we said, many learners avoid selling sweets before prelim. Okay, I'll repeat that. Many learners avoid selling sweets before prelim. You know they will fail if they sell sweets before prelim. So they avoid selling sweets before prelim. Okay, let's talk economic sense now. What does the M stand for? Management failure. The L stand for lack of motivation. The A stand for apathy. The S stand for structural weakness. The S stand for special interest groups. The B stand for bureaucracy. And the P stand for politicians. Then you are done. So those are your headings here. Okay. Many learners avoid selling sweets before prelim. Under supply reasons, we say here the rich countries like to send chocolates. Okay, I repeat, supply reasons for international trade. Rich countries like to send chocolates. Okay, what does the R stand for? The resources, or you could say natural resources. The C stand for climate conditions. The L stand for labor resources. The T, technological resources. The S, specialization. And the last one, talk to the capital resources. Those are the supply reasons for international trade. What about supply reasons for international trade here? We say here, people in Wheatbank prefer coffee. Okay? People in Wheatbank prefer coffee. What does that mean now? The P stands for population size, or the size of the population. The I stand for income levels. W, wealth. P, preferences and taste. C, consumption patterns. Okay, just as a reminder of the supply reasons for international trade. Under supply reasons, we know that natural resources are unevenly distributed. Other countries have resources that we don't have. We also have resources that they don't have. So we supply each other with those resources. Climate conditions, we may enjoy favorable sunny conditions, which allow us to grow certain crops that other countries do not enjoy those favorable climate conditions. So we supply them with whatever that we grow that enjoy the sun, and they supply us with whatever that they grow on the other side. The issue of labor, it talks about the skills or the expertise here. I'll make an example of which we mentioned that during COVID-19, you might be aware that at some point in South Africa, we received doctors from Cuba. So those doctors were supplied to us because of the specialization in certain diseases. So in that way, labor resources are also a supply factor because we might not have certain skills. Even in South Africa, there will be certain engineers that may go to other African countries or even in Europe as a supply reason. The issue of technology, we understand that we are still lacking when it comes to technology, so it becomes a supply reason for that. Specialization, where we said we look at opportunity cost, grade 12s. We specialize with what we are good at producing, and then the other country specialize in what they are good at producing. Then we do what we call a comparative and absolute advantage. As long as we can buy it with a low opportunity cost, then we can they can supply us, we can also supply them. The issue of capital, we understand that as South Africa is still a developing country, we need to attract as much capital as possible as we could, both financial capital as well as the physical capital on the other side. Then under demand reasons for international trade is the population size. When the size of the population increases due to the three things that we've mentioned when we're doing grade 10, due to natural growth rate, number of children that are born, or the mortality rate, or due to migration, the number of people that are coming into the country. As the population size increases, demand for goods and services also increase. And if supply locally cannot meet the demand, we are forced to go to other countries to demand those goods and services. Income levels. When people's disposable income increases, I tell you, they want to spend more, and they spend on goods and services that are not produced in South Africa. They will also tell you that whatever that is produced in South Africa is not labeled, so they will want to buy from other countries. That is an increase in income levels. It's a demand reason. Wealth is associated with luxury here, where you're looking at your Lamborghini, your Rolls Royce, your Rolex. Those things are not produced in South Africa. So it's a demand factor where we demand them from other countries. Preferences and taste goes with whatever that we may prefer and feel it's good for us. The brand, certain clothing of the brand, it's a demand reason. Consumption pattern, it looks at how we consume goods and services here. You and I will understand that developed countries spend most of their money on luxurious goods, or while the developing countries or the poorer spend their money on basic goods and services. So if the consumption of basic goods and services increases and local demand or local supply does not react to demand, that is a reason why we'll go to other countries to demand those goods and services. I've given you an essay here, grade 12. So those are the possible essays that we are saying they are hot, but you need to know how to discuss them. Take them out of the textbook, have an essay pack where you know how to discuss this. They are there in our previous question papers, grade 12. Just check how they were written, then you can say, I've got my marks here. Under economic pursuit, we are looking at arguments in favor of protectionism why do we need to protect our industries? Number 2, we are looking at the demand side approach in promoting growth and development in South Africa, both fiscal policy and monetary policy. And we are also looking now at number 3, the following growth and development policies or strategies. As you remember, these are the policies that we've been discussing. RDP, which is the Reconstruction and Development Policy, GIE, NSDS, ASGISA, GIPSA, the EPWP, the NGP, the NDP, as well as the SBP, SDBP, AAP, then the other one is the triple BEE. Those are the policies that we say we've been discussing them. They were there to promote growth and development in South Africa. So that is our possible essays here. The first one, arguments in favor of protectionism. The second one, demand side approach in promoting growth and development. And number 3, we are looking at different policies and an approach. Here, Charles, we need to be careful. The examiner is not limited to say, discuss probably RDP and GIE and GIPSA only, and limited. So you need to know the contents under each. Any combination of these questions may be asked as a form of limitation. But if it's open like this, you can write up to a maximum of, I don't know how many of these policies here. Okay. Then essay number 4, we are also saying this one is a hard one, where we're saying discuss South Africa's initiatives or endeavors or efforts in achieving regional development. Here we are talking the special development initiatives. We are looking at the map of South Africa and the redistribution, the corridors that links or act as a passageway from one area to another, industrial development zones. And we remember that in our textbooks, or no, in our reading, or in the recent way or understanding, is that all the industrial development zones have now been converted into the special economic zones. So in this essay as well, think of the shortcomings why all the IDZs were converted into SEZs, where we said the IDZs or the industrial development zones were only situated next to airports and harbors. So it means in an area where there's no airport or harbor, there was no way that IDZ can be established. That is why we said, because they are only situated next to harbors or ports, they are a disadvantage to the economy. And also, they lacked to attract investment on the other side or creation of jobs. Hence, now we did what we call the special economic zones. So this is part of the hot essay that you need to know. For those who are choosing question 6, remember we said this one are question 6 essays. And then number 5, discuss in details the following economic indicators. Number 1, inflation rate, where we are looking at the PPI and the CPI. Number 2, the foreign trade indicators, where we are looking at terms of trade and exchange rate. Okay. Number 3, employment indicators, where we are looking at economically active population, people between the ages of 15 and, or in bracket 16 to 64 in bracket 65, who are willing to work and who are able to work. Employment rate, the number of people that are employed. Unemployment rate, the number of people that are unemployed as a total of the total labor force. Productivity indicators, we look at the labor productivity, and also we are looking at the remuneration per work. Number 5, interest rates indicators, where we are looking at the repo rate with other interest rates such as the repurchase rate. Then we are looking at number 6, the social, the money supply. M1 consists of coins and notes. M2 consists of M1 plus short-term deposits and loans. M3 consists of M2 plus long-term deposits and loans. So those are the things that we are looking at there. So coins and notes. It means M1 here already is coins and notes plus short-term deposits and loans. This one, M3, it's coins and notes plus short-term and short-term deposits and loans, and long-term deposits and loans. So it means M1, it's a combination. M3, it's a combination of M1 and M2. So those are the things that we need to remember there, grade 12s. Okay. Then number 6, we are looking at the issue of the social indicators. Also another one that we need to remember, where we are looking at demographics. Under demographics is the population growth and life expectancy, nutrition and malnutrition, and obesity. That is under nutrition. And then number 3, we are looking at health. Here it's the mortality or children that die under the age of 5. How much does the government spend on health under its budget? Also, we're looking at the number of people that have got access to clean water, the number of people that have got access to sanitation on the other side. Then number 4, it's the issue of education. How much does the government spend on education? And then we also track how many learners started grade 1, how many exited grade 7, how many started grade 8, how many went out of grade 9, how many started grade 10, how many went out of grade 12. Those are statistics as indicators that we measure here. That's why we look at the percentage of secondary school enrollment. Services, how many of those have got access to electricity? Does the government remove refuse or garbage? Water supply, the issue of sanitation again. How many of those as a social indicator? So this one relates to you and I, grade 12s. We can easily relate. Then here we are looking at the issue of housing. Then we look at the number of houses that were completed or the number of people that have got access to housing. Then urbanization. The 3 things that I've mentioned, the issue of natural growth, the fertility and mortality rate, or the number of children that get born, as well as life expectancy on the other side. Then we look at migration, that is both the number of people that come in the country or a place, and the number of people that goes out of the country or a place. Lastly, we look at the founding of what we call new towns or new cities. That also have got an impact because they must be serviced. So government needs that statistics as a social indicator. Okay, so those are our possible essays in question 5 and question 6, as well as the structure. Okay, grade 12. Here is a recap, especially for calculation purposes. We'll just take 3 minutes to do this activity. Okay, that 3 minutes starts now. grade 12. So here, as an approach, I always say before you can even try to answer the questions, analyze the data response that is given, and in that way, write on it, do some notes there, do your own diagrams. You'll realize that you'll be answering the questions before you can even look at the main questions here. So if you are looking at this, it means we are looking at two participants in the circular flow, which are consumers or households, and we're also looking at firms. And there's only one link of the market there, which is the financial market. Okay, now that tells us that from this income, savings is 20 million. And once you say 100 minus 20, that tells you that consumption is 80 million. And converted to 0.2, that is your MPS. How did you get your MPS? You said 20, which is savings, divide by 100 of the income. And then it will give you 0.2. And then the consumption is 0.8, of which you said 80 of consumption divided by 100 of your income. Then it gave you what you call 0.8. And that 0.8, as you can remember, it is your marginal propensity to consume. So from this, households save portion of their income, which is only 20% or 20 million, and they consume 80% of their income. So after this analysis, then you can be able to calculate or do the requirements. My main focus here, grade 12, or the error that we do, it is on the last questions where we say calculate, especially when we punch in our calculators. That's where the common error gets bigger now. Okay, so let's look at the questions. The question says, identify the value of the marginal propensity to save from the diagram above. You would have analyzed the diagram already. Your answer is 0.2. If you've got that, there's a mark for you there. Then number 2 says, name the leakage that relates to the foreign sector. You and I know that it is the payments of imports. So be careful here, grade 12s. I want to emphasize this. Imports are not a leakage, but the payment for imports becomes a leakage. Because imports, we are talking about the physical goods, and those physical goods are coming into South Africa. So that is not a leakage because we are receiving those goods. But the payment for those, money goes out of the country. That is why it creates a leakage. Same applies when you talk to exports as an injection. Don't just write exports, but write income received or revenue earned from exports. Then you can get your marks there. Then briefly describe the concept autonomous consumption, where we are saying that is the level of spending that is independent of income or that is independent from change in income. What do I mean by this autonomous consumption? It happens automatically, where we say people who are not working are classified as people who do not receive income, but spending still takes place. That is autonomous consumption. When your parents give you pocket money, are they giving you income? No. But are you not going to spend? The answer is yes, you're going to be spending. So that is what we call autonomous consumption. Consumption that is independent from the level of income or change in income. Okay. Number 4, explain the importance of savings in the economy. We said savings ensure the availability of funds that are loanable in the financial sector for investment or capital formation purposes. Also, consumers have got access to loans, which will increase spending on durable goods. Savings, on the other side, helps to control excess demand in the economy, thereby reducing demand pool inflation. And households will enjoy the financial freedom as they will be able to pay for their future needs using their savings. So possibly these are the possible answers that we are expecting. Why are savings important in the economy? Okay, it does not only benefit the economy, but also benefit us as consumers at the end of the day, where we say those who want loans, they'll be able to have access to those loans through savings. And then it also reduces demand pull inflation, because if people have got too much money to spend, demand for goods and services increases. And when that happens, inflation is likely to increase. But if people, most of their income is used on savings, then demand for goods and services decreases, and therefore we reduce demand pull inflation. Then also it allows us to create wealth later on, where we will be enjoying the financial freedom later with the money that we have saved. Okay. Right. So this is where we are now. This is where the mistake starts. Use the formula marginal propensity, or use the marginal propensity to consume in the diagram above to determine the value of the multiplier. Write the formula and show all calculations. Candidates ignore that statement. They ignore this statement here, where we say write the formula. They don't just go straight substitution in the calculator, get the final answer, say I'm done. For writing the formula, there's a possibility of you getting a mark. So 1 is equals to k, I mean to say, which is the multiplier, is equals to 1 over 1 minus MPC. 1 mark for that. Where we now substitute, we know that consumption is 0.8. So we'll say 1 over 1 minus 0.8. Then that gives us 1 over 0.2. And then our answer there is 5. Another common error, you find that the formula is not written, 1 mark is already gone. Then they substitute, but then skip this step because now you're punching everything in a calculator. And then it gives you the correct answer of 5. That answer will give you the mark, but it means you would have lost 2 marks along the process. So ensure that you substitute. After substitution, you solve, and then you find your final answer at the end of the day. And then there are these nice calculators of ours. I don't want to mention their names. They give us wrong answers at the end of the day, especially when you punch everything in it. So be careful. As you do this, make sure that all the steps are followed. I know that we've got 5 there as our final answer. Congratulations to that. So 10 marks are in. It's a recap. Okay. As a reminder of what is this multiplier process, we said it refers to the extent to which the national income changes as a result of change or increase in spending and injections. And there are 2 steps that you should follow to calculate the multiplier effect. Not the multiplier, but to calculate the multiplier effect. Step number 1, you do calculate the multiplier given any formula that you need to do. Then step number 2, that's when you calculate the multiplier effect, where you say change in income is equals to K. Where is K? We've done it there. We've calculated it already. Multiply by the change in J. It will be given. So these are the 2 steps that you need to follow when you are calculating the multiplier effect. Step 1, calculate the multiplier. Step 2, calculate the effect. Let's apply that into practice. Application. Right. So the government injects 20 million. So automatically that tells us that is changing in J. To improve infrastructure, what is required of you is to calculate the multiplier effect if the households save 20% of their income. So that already tells us that that saving becomes our MPS. Show all calculations. We get those marks. Let 8 marks not scare you. You know that there are only 2 steps to follow. You get your 8 marks. Step 1. K is equals to 1 over MPS based on the formula that is given. Okay. Then we substitute where we say k is equals to 1 over 0,2. Remember, these percentages must be converted into decimals. Okay. Then you get 5. So that it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 marks. Step 2. You substitute by calculating the multiplier effect. Okay. Another mark. Then k is equals to 5, which is the value of k that you got, and multiply by the change in j, the one that is given in the scenario. Okay, that gives you a mark. Then the final answer is 100 meter. So your 8 marks are there. That's how it is. Only 2 steps to follow, and then you get your 8 marks here, grade 12s. So I hope you realize that as it happens, I keep on underlining the key things that I need in a question, of which you are also expected that every time you underline the key statements in a question or in a statement for you to get your full marks. Okay. Then let's look at the multiplier in the form of a graph, of which we mentioned that this is our aggregate equilibrium point, or a 45-degree line, where we said aggregate expenditure is equals to our national income on the other side. Then we look at the first consumption function, where we said where the consumption function intersects with the equilibrium point, it's our E1. Then the original consumption function is C0 is equals to A plus B Y. What does that represent? A represents the level of autonomous consumption, so it's a value. Then B represents the marginal propensity to consume, so B is our MPC, while Y is our disposable income. Okay, so that is the analysis that we're having here. B is the MPC, Y is the disposable income, A is the level of autonomous consumption. But the whole formula here, the whole equation, it is what we call the original consumption function. So if they say, write the original consumption function, you write the whole formula there. Okay. So suppose now there's an increase in injections, it will go up, or we see the change, and a new equilibrium point will be formed at E1, and a new income will be calculated at Y1. And then we've got the new consumption function, which is C1 is equals to A1 plus B of okay. That is our new consumption function. C1 is equals to A1 plus B of Y there. Okay. Let's look at this in a calculation format. Step 1, calculate the value of the multiplier only in this case. Then you'd realize that when you analyze this graph, grade 12s, we said the value that is next to Y represents our MPC. So we have the value of MPC. We can calculate the multiplier. The original consumption function is 20 plus 0,6 of Y. Look at this side. It is also 20 plus 0, no, it's 20, which is our autonomous consumption or injections. Where we said given MPC being 0,6, we can calculate the value of the multiplier, and the value of the multiplier there, it is 2,5. How did we get that? Formula 1 over 1 minus MPC, because it's given, which is 1 over 1 minus 0,6, you get a mark. Then you do another step where you solve, which is 1 over 0,4. Then your answer is 2,5. So all the steps are important. As you can see, I'm not skipping any step, or I'm not omitting any step here. Then step 2, you calculate the effect, of which already you've got the value of the multiplier and you've got the level of autonomous consumption or injections, and Y0 here, the answer there is, it is 50. So always apply these steps, then you will never go wrong there, grade 12s. Just a recap and a reminder of how to calculate the multiplier and also how to calculate the multiply effect using a graph. Another scenario, suppose now that there's additional investment of 10 million. It means the injections will increase from 20 million to 30 million. How do we do that? Already we had 20, that was our autonomous consumption. Now we are adding another 10, that will give us 30. And with the 20, we know that our national income was 50. So with 30, what is the value of the national income there? Okay, let's look at it. Knowing that we already have the value of the multiplier being 2,5, we can say 2,5 times by the additional investment, the answer is 25 million. And then 25 million, you say, initially, as my income or national income, how much was I having? I was having 50 million. And then with the additional investment of 10 million, I'm yielding additional 25 million. My new national income now, it is how much? It is 75,000. Or another approach would be saying, straightforward, I've got 20, I added 10, it's 30. And then you're going to be saying 30 multiplied by the 2,5 of the multiplier, the value that we are getting there, it is 75. So this approach also is, it is shorter and easier also to get it. It means once, the only step that you do is to calculate the multiplier, and then once you get the value of the multiplier, you just multiply it by the aggregate expenditure in the economy. Okay. So using a graph, this is a complete one. Formula number 3, we said change in Y divide by change in J or E. So this change in Y and change in J here, they are there for a purpose. But in an exam purposes or in an exam, they will never tell you or will never put them there. So it means first, before you calculate or you do anything, analyze the graph, do your calculations on the side, then you can be in a state or be ready to answer the questions. You check, I'm at 75, I am from 50. That side, I'm at 30, I am from 20. So you're calculating the multiplier now. So it's 75 minus 50 divided by 30 minus 20. K is equals to 25 divided by 10. And then the final answer is what? 2,5. So in a way, you are reversing the equation where you are calculating the value of the multiplier, given a complete set of a graph. So the very same way that you remember that, okay, I remember that the value next to y, it's my MPC. Let me just calculate to see what is it that I'm getting for my MPC. You remember you said for MPC, 1 over 1 minus MPC, which is equals to 1 over 1 minus 0,6, and then you got 1 over 0,4, then your answer was 2,5. That was the first way of doing it. On this one, we are saying, already we've given you the graph. Use the formula, change in y over change in j, to calculate the value of the what? Of the multiplier. So you are reversing the equation now. Then you can get your answer. The answer should be the same. Grade 12. Okay. So it's a reminder here. Let's look at another method, national accounts aggregate. Which method is this? The first question, it will ask you to identify the method of calculating GDP. How do you mark them? By the first statement, compensation of employees. We know that compensation is an income to us. You have been compensated for working. So which method is that? That's an income method. Okay, right. Then later on or down there, you see that there's the value of A there. So complete that A, where you know that taxes going down, taxes are added, subsidies are subtracted. Or you can do what you call a bottom-up method, where you're going to add now subsidies and minus taxes. Then you get 4 marks. So I'm more focused on the issue of calculations here, grade 12s. Okay, let's look at those questions. It's an income method. Then the other one, we know that it's the production method. How do we see the production method? By the 3 sectors of the economy. Then the other method is the expenditure method, where you see final consumption by households, government, as well as businesses through fixed capital formation. Example of taxes on products, it's VAT, sin tax, carbon tax, sugar tax, fuel levy, import duties, custom duties, or import tariffs. Subsidies on production, it is to reduce the cost of production, or subsidies that are not linked to any specific product at the end of the day. Okay. And why is it important for a country to prepare national accounts aggregate? It's like what we did in economic pursuit. Why is it important to measure the performance of the economy? So we are there to determine the level of the economy in terms of real output, economic growth, and to compare the current figures with the previous figures, to measure the standard of living, and also to look at the levels of prosperity between different countries. That is why we need to prepare the national accounts aggregates. Okay. Then the last question, as we said already, you've met the requirements of calculating A before it can even be asked. So GVA at basic prices, we said here, it is 5,453. We've got it there, which is factor cost, plus taxes on products, minus subsidies on production. Sorry, taxes on production minus subsidies on production. Then it gives us 5,573. You may ignore the other zeros or the extra zeros. Just work with the values that are given here. Bottom up, you take your GDP at market prices, which is 6,193. You add your subsidies on products of 14, then you minus your taxes on products of 634, you will still get the same answer. So either way, whether you do a bottom up or whether you work from the top down, the answer will still be the same. Another tricky factor here, it is where we say calculate something as a percentage of something. So when we say calculate compensation of employees as a percentage of GDP at market prices, you are going to say compensation of employees value, which is 261, divided by GDP at market prices, which is 6,193, multiplied by 100. That is what we want out of this question. If they say calculate something as a percentage of something. And like I said, let us pay attention to the issue of the calculators that we are using and show that we do everything step by step. So another question here, it is the issue of aggregate supply and aggregate demand, of which we remember that the economy is at equilibrium where AD and AS intersect, and the price that is charged there is P, quantity demanded it's Q. But we want the economy to increase. So increase or prosperity in the economy means that people can afford to buy goods and services. So as that happens, the demand for goods and services increases from Q2, Q1, and it shifts from AD2 to AD1. As that happens, we can see that a new equilibrium point is formed at E1. But the problem is this: there's an increase in the prices of goods and services there. And once prices of goods and services increase, you and I know that inflation is likely to occur. So to avoid an increase or to avoid inflation increasing, we expect the supply to react to an increase in demand. Hence, you see the shift from AS to AS1. And in that way, it's good that quantity demanded still increased and quantity supplied still increased from Q or Q1 to Q2. A new equilibrium is formed at point E1. But there's something that is so interesting, or something that is good about this. When supply reacts to an increase in demand, look at the issue of prices there. The price remains constant. As much as demand increased and supply increased, inflation has been avoided here. So the only danger or the problem is that when demand increases and supply does not increase, that's when we realize, that's when we incur inflation. But if demand increases, supply also reacts to an increase in demand, then we can say we have avoided inflation and we have achieved what we call price stability. The first one we said, identify the original equilibrium point in the graph above. It's original. Name the instruments that is used under monetary policy, interest rates or repo rate, cash reserve requirements, open market transactions, moral suasion or moral persuasion, and we also look at what we call the exchange rate policy. The middle question, where we said briefly describe the concept of the term business cycle. This one we know that it's a successive period of increase and decrease in economic activities, or you could say to us, it's a recurrent patterns of economic expansion and contraction in the country. Then, how can competition stimulate aggregate supply? Here is a cause and effect relationship question that I was saying. We are looking at competition as a cause on what? On aggregate supply. Effect of that. How does competition stimulate aggregate supply? The cause and effect relationship. So competition allows the establishment of new firms or businesses in different industries, which will increase production of goods and services. In that way, aggregate supply is stimulated. Okay? Or competition encourages the existing businesses to use more efficient production methods, which will also increase productivity. In that way, aggregate supply is stimulated. The cause and effect relationship. Okay. The last one, we have outlined that, where we said the AD shifts to AD1 while aggregate demands remain the same. That will lead to inflation. A new equilibrium point is formed at E1 and quantity output or demanded is higher at Q1 and the price level increase from P2 to P1. So you are interpreting the graph there. Actually, you tell us what is there. Even if the graph is not there or you draw your own graph, interpret or discuss something that it's on the graph, something that we can see. We've seen many times where learners discuss something else and they draw something else. Then in that way, you get 0 for that. But discuss the picture or the graph that we can see. So implementation of the supply side policies, it is where aggregate supply shift from AS to AS1, which is very good. And a new equilibrium point will be formed at Q2, and then the price levels will be lowered or will be kept at P. Then in that way you get your marks there. Okay. Then here we are looking at the issue of the tax brackets and the progressive tax system here, of which it is very important for us to always analyze our tax brackets here, grade 12, where we are saying how much, or identify the marginal tax rate for someone who earns 216. Then we can see 216 is somewhere there. So the marginal tax rate, it is at 26%. Name the tax system that is used. It is progressive tax system, where we said the higher you earn, the more you pay tax. The fiscal policy, taxation and government spending. Lastly, we are saying you should calculate how much income or taxable income for a person that earns 480 per annum. Okay, let's look at that. Identify the tax rate. We said it is 26%. The second one, the tax system, it's progressive tax system. Don't say payee, just write progressive tax system. Briefly describe the concept fiscal policy. It refers to the changes in taxation and government expenditure to influence the level of economic activities. So for us to fully say taxation, fiscal policy, taxation and government expenditure should be there. Okay. Higher tax rates talks to the lava curve, where we say you'll be discouraged to work and production may drop, where businesses end up shutting down. Businesses and individuals will also evade paying tax on the other side. And we are saying consumers' disposable income will decrease, resulting in decrease in spending. Those are part of the negatives. The last one, first thing here, you identify the tax bracket of someone who earns 480. So we realize that it's bracket number 4. Then from there, you take the amount of the taxable income, you write the equation as it is, then you substitute, you say the amount there, which is 480 minus the one that is in the bracket. Then you substitute, you solve everything that is in the bracket. Look at the drop in this 110, 739. You carry it up until the last step, where you said, after solving, you find what is in the bracket, which is 36% of 12,500. Then your answer there, it is 4,500, where you get 115, 239 as your final answer here. Step number 1, identify the tax bracket, solve whatever that is in the bracket, then you solve the equation up until the last one. Okay. So on this one, it's the issue of exchange rates, where commonly the mistake that we do under exchange rates, grade 12s, it is where we say you need to be able to interpret currency appreciation and currency depreciation. So when I do it in short, when the rand moves from 14 rand to 15 rand, there we are saying it has depreciated, it has lost value. So we want a situation where the rand goes down to 0. Then we would have achieved what we want at the end of the day. So let's move. Okay. Then analysis has been done here, where we look at the effects or the benefits of surplus in the balance of payment. The value of the rand will increase due to the net inflow of the foreign exchange. Importing production of inputs will be cheaper due to improved exchange rates, and production will be stimulated. More employment opportunities will be done. The debt to cover BOP problems will be reduced. Less borrowing, which is good for us as a country. Then analysis, its interpretation of the graph. Then we can say we are done. So with that, grade 12s, We can only wish you the best with your exams, where we look at to say, under economic pursuit, there you need to understand, especially on the long questions, know the map of the country, know that everything that we are doing under economic pursuit, it is to achieve the 5 microeconomic objectives. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching this lesson. See you next time. Goodbye.